welcome back, Summoners. Today we're going to be covering conversion rates and meta share expectations and predictions for the upcoming Bologna Regional. Joining me is my good friend and teammate Dimitri.
How's it going, guys? I play this game a fair amount now. I've topped a bunch, and I have my own channel going on where I'm working on videos for the topping list of the last two 1Ks, one of which was Nova's himself. So check out those.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, his channel will be linked in the description. Make sure to click all the buttons. You know the ordeal. All right, so let's get into it. So, Dimitri, walk us through the tier list, what each category represents, and kind of what to expect here.
Yeah, so this is not a straight up what deck is best, what deck is worst, or how many will get in kind of thing. This is based on how many are brought versus how far they get. So
Sure.
overconvert means that more get into top cut than you would expect to, right? So if there's 10% of them in the tournament, more than 10% are going to be in top cut. Converts as expected means 10% of the meta is this deck, 10% of the top cut's going to be this deck, right? It's just exactly
As
doing as well
expected.
as you would expect a deck to
Right.
do. Yes. Under converts but still converts, there's going to be at least one of this deck in top 64. I think we should go for the cutoff. Um,
Sure.
Metal card day 2 means it's a deck where someone's going to get to day 2. Probably not going to top, but they could. And then just metal card hunting means the deck's bad. Sorry, guys. Some decks just got to be bad.
Sure, sure. Okay. So let's start this off with a very clear, crisp, and decisive baseline. I don't think we need to have any discussion here, right? Would you agree?
I agree. I think if a Garen makes day 2, that is a list worth looking at, and that's saying something.
If
Yes.
yeah, if Garen makes day two, we need to double check the sleeves and make sure that Aurora does not have any
Yeah.
funny looking sleeves on it, right?
Exactly. Yep. Unfortunately.
So we're not gonna do the YouTuber thing where we just slam all the metal cards in there. We're gonna go one by one. So do you have a deck you want to talk about first that you're nice and passionate about?
Um I think we should start with the MF right there in front. I think she's in a really interesting spot. People were looking a bit at a sort of mid-range or aggro MF kind of list.
Mm-hmm.
Aurora MF was, of course, one of the queens of set one. Where do you think she goes?
Yeah, Aurora is very strong. I think the dynamic into mid-range Draven and Miracle Draven for that fact is very good. But I'm not sure that ganking is enough to be the difference maker versus all of the unfair cards that we get to play in the other purple legends. So, I could, for the fact that it's still the very consistent Aurora deck, you still get to play the good purple cards, right? You get the good orange cards. I do think this is a day two metal card. I don't think we're going to see it top, but I do think it's not at the very bottom of the metal card hunting tier. That is where I would put it.
That's exactly where I'd put her too. I do think with higher representation, she would be in the under converts but does convert tier. But
Right.
there's just not enough people on her, and she's just not good enough for that to be where she goes. I agree.
100% agree. Yeah, and to segue into this, the better Aurora deck in the same color combo for me is Sivir. So, I know you've been kind of testing this. We have other well-known Sivir players in Vero. Some of the people in the 1K were in my 1K were doing very well. The Runes and Rift 1K, excuse me, they were doing pretty well. I do think overall this is the superior orange purple legend, flat out. Both in mid range and Aurora. I do think Aurora is the correct way to play this. We've seen some very interesting lists with low unit count, prioritizing shovel. We've seen some more middle of the road lists with the volley bears, as well as like more mind splitter or max mind splitters and the Drake that readies himself if you have another dragon out. So for me, I'll kick this one off. I think personally, this might be a spicy take. I see Sivir over converting because we have some specialists who are known to be
Mm.
going there. So I don't know that representation is going to be very high. I do expect quite a few people to play this, but I expect the specialists to push through into that invite or top 64 threshold. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Interesting. I was expecting you to put her at under converts but does convert, where like one specialist gets through to top 64 kind of thing. My prediction was day two metal card because I don't
Really?
personally know anyone at Bologna going with this deck that's very good. I just don't know the players who are going. So my prediction is top 128 is the best a Sivir will get.
Wow. Wow, interesting. So this is our first fork in the road. I think this
Yeah.
legend is very good. I do think, if I'm being plain honest, it is in the probably the top 5 hardest decks to play this set. And that's, being honest, you hurt some people's feelings at the start of this video. I'm going to hurt some people's feelings now. I do think the average person cannot play this deck correctly. And it's not like MF last set where you have certain hands that just autopilot. Very frequently you don't. You do
And
have to play the deck.
that's a big reason why I don't expect this kind of deck to over convert either.
Mm.
Is any deck where you have to play precise, you're going to have like, out of 10 players that play it, 1 to 2 with a chance of converting if they're playing on top of their game. And then the other 8 are like not really adding much chance at all to the deck. Whereas other decks that are easier to play, Draven, might have more of the whole range of players able to convert and increase that conversion rate.
Sure, I respect that. I respect that. Would you agree with potentially putting it under converts but converts with those
I think
specialists
that's
in
fine.
mind?
Yes. I think that's fine.
Sure. Okay. So you did MF, I did MF into Sivir here. You pick the next one. Let's get a spicy one going.
I kind of like how we're going by like color grouping a bit. So let's finish out the yellow oranges. Let's go Set and then Fiora if you're down.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to kick us off with Set?
So Set, I think, really struggles with Rebuke, and I don't see many people playing him. Um, so I'm gonna put him at either day two metal card or metal card hunting. I think if someone really good was solo, like sticking with Set for a long time and trying to just play him because they like him, kind of thing, I could
Sure.
see it converting potentially. I don't think anyone's like that with Set, and so I don't see him converting.
I don't think so either. For me personally, he is in the metal card hunting tier. I just
I'm down.
you can't. I don't think you can play a deck that near automatically loses to Rebuke in a format where the best decks are on 3 copies of Rebuke post side. I just,
Yep.
even if it's metal card hunting, like I recognize that's the purpose of metal card hunting. You're not playing the best deck, but I just don't know that it's feasible. Um, yeah, I think that's perfectly where it belongs here.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is a day 2 deck.
Very reasonable.
Now,
Fiora.
my girl and your girl, I know this. You're very big on Fiora, and let's set the record straight. It's Hook Fiora, right? We're not playing no go wide, play weird shenanigans, right?
I don't know that you need Hook. I think the other builds are viable, both an equipment build and just like a disruption spell heavy build kind of thing. I do think Hook is slightly ahead of the other builds. Where do you put this one?
So it's tough because I think it is going to be heavily represented. So I do think at minimum it's going to be under converts, but converts, just because so many people are playing it. If you removed just a fraction of the amount of people playing it, I could see it in converts as expected. But I do think this is a fan favorite deck. So because of that, some of that data is poisoned by the casual players. Because we're strictly talking about conversion rates here, poison. I don't mean poisoned and casual players are poisoning anything, but we're strictly talking about conversion rates here. So for me, it belongs in under converts, but converts because I think to navigate the Draven matchup, you really have to understand it, and I don't think most or some amount of Fiora players at this event are going to actually understand it in the way they need to get through and get that over convert or even converts as expected.
I like that placement. I think as well the tracking you need to do with baited hook to be
Yes.
knowing what cards you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
hitting and how likely it is and to figure out what the best play is just more work than most players bother doing in these kinds of events. They just don't bother taking the notes that
No.
they should be.
100%.
Um not that they couldn't figure out what their odds are for it, but they just don't. And so I agree. I think converts but under converts is reasonable. Another take I'm gonna say is Fiora will be less represented in the Bologna and Vegas meta than she was in China, I bet.
Interesting. You really think so?
I do, yes. I think her popularity's gone down.
All right, so we're gonna in post editing here, we're gonna put that on the screen as our side predictions tracker. So, Fiora represented less than the China events. Okay, so that's our first little side bet we've got going on here.
Indeed. All right. What color combo do you want to try next?
The girl herself, the Swarm Queen Rek'Sai.
Ooh.
When we first got the leaks, I was very high on this deck. You know, if you remember our discussion in the hotel room at the RQ, I was very, very high on this deck. Obviously, I have came down since. I recognize the error in my ways. I don't think this is the S tier deck I originally thought it was going to be. You know, I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, but I do think Rek'Sai in the hands of some people who test well enough can do well. That said, it's still a day two metal card deck.
Yeah, you had me worried there for a second. You were gonna try and put it higher, and I was gonna have to break your heart.
The bait and
Definitely day
switch.
2 metal card level. I agree. Yep.
Alex, if you're watching,
Now,
I want to say if all 47 people playing Rek'Sai were you on this deck, it would be converts as expected, or under converts but converts. But because they're not all Alexander from Challenger TCG, it's a day two metal card deck.
Alex, if you're watching, he's not sorry at all. We do it to her again, unfortunately.
That is true. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm excited for what she can do in the future. I feel like with set 3 coming, there's a potential for more cards in those colors that really open things up for her.
Agree.
But as it stands with the current meta and current card pool, yeah, very much day 2 metal card deck.
Agree. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to play an aggro deck into a legend like the Glorious Executioner himself. That just punishes you for everything you do ever. You could breathe slightly
And
incorrectly, and he's gonna draw a card.
oh, of course. And now his brother. Where is Darius going?
Darius. Darius Hook. Um, you know, I know this was a very enjoyable deck for you, set one. That said, I do think Darius is in fact a metal card hunting deck. I don't have much to add beyond that. I have a Darius aficionado at my locals, and we've played quite a bit. And every time we play, I'm consistently unimpressed with what that deck does in set two.
I think so. I very much agree. He's unimpressive. I think he's top of metal card hunting, or like the by far most bottom a day 2 metal card deck,
Sure.
where like I could see someone good with the deck and who really still loves Darius squeaking into day 2. I don't know if Hook is the best build for him anymore. It's possible that he has better other more aggro options that he can go for.
Sure.
Um, but I think that yeah, he really is just a deck that you bring to hunt the metal card at this point.
100%. Yeah, especially if you do play the Hook version, with how popular I do think the Daughter of the Void Kaisa is going to be. I just don't know, you know, and especially because the Kaisa builds are on like full burn now, where you just don't get units. You cannot keep units.
Yep.
So
Yep, it is unfortunate.
100%, 100%. Okay, so staying on the yellows, let's go. And speaking of full burn control, let's
Ooh.
segue into another yellow deck. We're going to talk about Victor, the Herald of the Arcane himself. What's your thoughts on Victor?
Victor was extremely popular as a budget option in set 1 and stays pretty budget friendly here. So I could very much see people who are going to this event but are not looking to put a lot of commitment in being on Victor and not being that well practiced. So I'm putting it on either day 2 metal card or under converts but converts. And I think I'm leaning towards one will convert into top 64. Where are
I
you at with it?
I 100% agree because this is a deck that we in our team tested pretty heavily, and I do think if you are willing to put in the effort and understand, the inflection points, I do think it has a decent equity into the decks you care about where you can get there, especially to top 64. Top 8, uh if we see
Mhm.
if we see Victor top 8, then I don't know. I'll do something. I'll figure something out before the end of the video. But 64, I do see a top 64 happening for Victor for sure.
So my issue with Victor, or my question with Victor, what build do you think will top? Do you think it's going to be a blue Victor build with a couple of units? Do you think it's going to be all spell, Vanguard Armory? Do you think it's going to be more a set one style with the yellow Victor?
No, I do think it's blue Victor with Jace Vanguard Armory, and then the rest of the cards are removal. I am almost certain of that fact.
I One of the Chinese best of lists, I believe, it might have been the second best of list,
Mm-hmm.
was siding the Jaces, but on the Vanguard Armory stuff.
In the
I could
main.
also see that
Mm,
kind of a list being on it.
okay.
Yeah. Where the Vanguard Armory sort of takes a side view, but if you really want to be spamming those units for a certain matchup, um, you bring it in. I could
Right.
see that being it.
Mhm.
But I agree that it's a blue Victor spell heavy kind of deck.
Right. I don't know that Vanguard Armory is quite as needed in the Victor, just because you get to make a dude regardless. That said, in the same color combo, a deck where Jace Vanguard Armory I think is a main guaranteed 100% of the time, Lux. Um, Now
Yes.
Lux unfortunately does not get to make a dude every turn, and for that reason, she's a little lower. I think it requires a bit more of a specialist, someone like Clark. Shout out Clark, who just barely missed top cut of my 1K that just happened. Watched an amazing game of his on stream. That was uploaded recently. I'll link that, of course. So for me, I think Lux is probably just because you could still play full burn, and there's going to be a lot of like Draven and Irelia players that have literally never read Lux in their life. I'm sure of it, that are going to get caught out by the Lux players. So I'm not opposed to putting her in day two metal card, because it's kind of like Diet Victor, right? You're running the full burn. You're still controlling things, and I do think it has some game into a lot of the Kaisa builds that are being played currently. You just have to know how to do it.
Here's a hot take. I think Lux is slightly better than Victor. Um,
Interesting.
I think her draw power and the fact that she can run Vanguard Armory anyway to be able to get those free recruits means that she doesn't really lose out from the legend ability being different. I think her chosen champ ends up being slightly more useful than Victor's,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the issue she has is that she's just so much less represented than Victor that there won't be enough for any to convert. But I do
Mm.
think she um, is the better deck, and if there are enough people on her and enough good players on her, she would. I also put her at day two metal card.
So, would you say if there was an equal amount of Lux players as there were Victor players, these would be swapped, or
Yes.
Lux would also
Well,
just be here?
yeah, Lux would also be in the under converts and maybe like slightly above Victor in that tier. Yep.
Mm. So something like this. Would you agree with this kind of setup we've got going on?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
All right, all right. So we're staying in the yellows here, and this is a
Now there
deck.
is one more in that color combination. Very forgettable, however.
I
Renat.
did completely forget about that, and this is a deck that my brother has considered
I
metal card hunting for Vegas. I totally forgot about this
Yeah.
deck. I don't have anything to say about it. Do you?
So the one thing I will say is you were going to move on to the next color combination before even placing her. That tells you all you need to know about the deck.
This deck
No,
just
from
does
what I've heard,
nothing.
she actually can do more than you would expect. Her signature spell being a hidden card but not an action is very uncomfortable.
Oh,
Her ability to do things when she has a lot of gold is very nice, and she can just draw seven with that blue chosen champion
mm-hmm.
to find answers at the very end of the game. However, it's usually not enough. And usually
100%.
she struggles to get that much gold and has to be playing slightly worse cards to be making excess gold.
100%
So it's
agree.
just not there.
I think
Yeah.
the problem is this deck is designed to be a hold deck, and we are in the worst possible hold meta ever. It's the same reason why Yi, and you'll get our thoughts on that shortly. I'm not very high on Yi right now. I just don't think you could build hold. And I've seen other Renata lists that are like on yellow or blue seals, playing a bit more mid range. The problem with that is you then sacrifice your legend and you run into the Garen conundrum, where there are a large number of turns where your legend literally does nothing. And even
Mm.
the worst legends are doing something on most turns. You know, whether or not they're activating is a different story, but they're representing something. Uh, and yeah, I mean, Renata like wants to send in an honest broker and get a gold, but the problem is you have decks like Draven, cough cough, is going to come in and also get a gold and
Yep.
also get a point and also get a draw.
Yep. Yeah, I do think it is a decent hold meta, better than people would expect and better than people are saying it is. The issue is it is a good hold meta if you are purple
Yeah,
and especially if you are Draven.
correction.
And it's
Yeah,
not a good hold meta for other decks. And
good
so
correction.
if
Yeah,
you're playing other colors, you're not going to be able to hold as well as you want.
that is an absolute, yeah. I would 100% agree with that correction. Yeah, I would 100%
Yeah.
stand corrected there. It is a bad hold meta unless you are specifically purple. Let me correct myself.
Yeah. Like holding like twice in a game for a purple deck is normal. Holding maybe 3 times as Draven is normal. Holding as other decks is rough. I
100%.
agree.
100%. Yeah. And as Renata, I just don't know how you ever beat a miracle deck. Mid range, I think there is probably a world where you can skill gap a worse Draven or maybe even Irelia player just by taking the optimal lines, and playing the right cards at the right time and drawing decent. But I don't know that you can pick your deck up and pick your starting five and beat Miracle. I just don't know that it's possible. What are you
Yeah.
supposed to do versus 7 energy, 52,000 might? You just can't beat it. You just can't.
Yeah. I think it's like Singularity. You do have the Bellows Breath Imperial Decree combo in those colors, but you need to find too much. You need to always find the right
Mm-hmm.
answers, and your units don't cheat nearly as much
Yes,
as any other color do.
100%. Yep. Even in the other color combos, you have no like cheats. You know, you have Vanguard Armory with
Yep.
Lux, and then in Victor, you just get a dude every turn. So like you can apply pressure that way. Um, where yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on the Chem Baroness herself, but anywho,
Yep.
we'll go on to our next one. Unfortunately, I've been kind of picking the last few. I'm gonna pick one more, and then I'll let you pick a few here, Dimitri. Uh,
For sure.
Leona. When I first started set one, and you probably remember the messages I sent in our team Discord where I was like, man, I hate Leona. There is like this Leona player at my locals that just dusts me on Annie. Or like we play and I'll win, but it's the most frustrating experience ever. But
Hmm.
this deck just does nothing into purple this set because it's a whole different dichotomy. This deck does nothing into mid range decks, and aggro isn't real set to. Like in the Annie form of aggro. Let me correct myself. Obviously, there's still aggression, but it's not Annie aggro where it's like points, 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 points. So this is just like metal card hunting for me.
Yeah, I do think the right lists of Leona could make it a day 2 metal card deck, but I don't think the Leona has standardized and figured out
Mm-hmm.
her lists well enough yet to be in that place.
Agreed.
I think that's the top she's getting to in this meta, and unfortunately she's just not there right now.
100%. 100% agree. All right. Next one's on you.
I mean, we're sticking with the same colors as we go through this. Let's go for Azir next.
All right. What's your thoughts on the Sand General?
So Azir did really well in that one Chinese event.
Yep.
I don't remember which one, but it was the one that Annie won. Azir got second. And I think it was a fluke. I think Azir has a terrible matchup into Draven. And I've played it from the Azir side, and I've won it from the Azir side, but it is not a good matchup. As Draven just has every single tool in the house to win it, I think Azir's better matchups are probably things like Kaisa, where your negate spells work better,
Hmm.
your reuse of gear works better, but he's so weak to Thermo Beam. He's so
Oh,
weak to pushes, and especially ones that can stop the Azir chosen champion from bringing other units in, like Overzealous Fan does. I don't see him converting at all. I think he will be lucky to hit day two, even to be honest. Where do you
I
put him at?
I agree it's a hot take, but I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think this deck is hot buns. And that is respectfully. I think the deck is very cool. I like what it's doing with the tokens and the weapon master. Um, we had a teammate who had a really cool, not good, but really cool baited hook deck with this that was really fun to watch and really fun to play. But same trap. I think this is very bait. I'm very unhappy with Zir. It suffers the issue of being green, but also not being purple.
So true. Not being purple is an issue this format.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Let's go on to a couple of the other green decks. Let's try green orange unless you got something else to say about Azir first.
No, I have absolutely positively nothing to say about Azir. What do you think? What do you think about going to Jax here? What's your thoughts on Jax?
Yeah, Jax is one where I've tried the best of lists a couple times because this deck just it wasn't making sense to me that this deck could do anything. And it really started to seem like, okay, these are ways that the deck is able to cheat energy, it's able to have more disruption than players would expect, it's able to move from battlefields comfortably, it's able to defend itself when it gets stuck in one. But it is very low on card draw, and it isn't able to do things faster or better than other top decks, really.
Agreed.
I would put it towards the top of day two metal card,
Mm-hmm.
personally. I think top 128 is a pretty reasonable spot for it.
Yep.
Top 64 is pretty unlikely.
Yep. This is that weird category where it's like if one hits top 64, I'm going to go, "Oh wow, what's going on here?" And I'm going to assume it's someone who has put a lot of hours on Jax. If one hits top 128, I'm going to be like, "Okay, that's expected." But I 100%
Yep.
agree with that sentiment. It does get to do the occasional unfair thing, which I think is the bare minimum threshold for this format is you have to have, one or probably two unfair things about your deck. It has to be something. What that is, whether it's energy cheating, power cheating, card economy, root economy, might, it has to be something. And I think
Yeah.
Jax does have one of those things, sometimes two, depending on the build, but it's just not enough. And it suffers the issue of being green. And I don't think green is very good unless you're specifically also purple with it.
Yeah, I'd say it does a very fair amount of unfair things,
Exactly.
is
Yeah,
how I
that,
would put
that
it.
that's a great way to. It does a fair amount of unfair things. Yeah, that's. I mean, I could
Yeah.
not describe it any better. Possibly better at all. 100% agree. All right, next
All
one's on
right,
you.
Master Yi.
Oh,
Where do we
Yi,
think Master Yi
my
goes?
beloved. I remember. Oh, what was it? A month ago, blowing up the Discord, being like, "I think I figured it out. I think I figured it out," and then we'd test, and you would like blow me out on Draven. I'd be like, "Okay, let's go back to the lab." And then I'd test and I'd be like, all right, I figured it out. And then you would blow me out and I'd be like, all right, we're abandoning Yi. My thing with Yi, and Casanova released a video today that was really good, and he said it in a way that explained exactly my thoughts in a way that I don't know that I could have communicated effectively. He said that last set Yi was the math deck, right? And if you're wanting to do math things, you should just play Irelia because Irelia does math better.
Mm.
It does the math thing better, flat out, in every single way, right? And it goes back to being the hold strategy, and you're holding in a deck that isn't purple, and you just can't do that. You don't get fight or flight, you don't get rebuke, you don't get ride the wind, you don't get gust. You don't get the unfair cards. Like you do get camel, which camel is cool, but anyone who's watching this video who has done any number of set two games testing with an orange deck, anytime camel's in your hand, you're just not having a good time. It just doesn't do enough for its text.
Yeah, sometimes Camel hits on turn 3 and can win the game. Usually Camel you just don't have enough to be able to do with it, or it's game 1, it surprises them, games 2 and 3 they're ready for it and it's no longer doing anything.
Right.
Yep.
That's a very good way to describe it too. I don't mind it being explained as like a game 1 card where it's like, oh, I cheesed a game and then 2 and 3 it comes out because now they're playing around it. But beyond that, very unhappy. All that said, I do think it is probably the best of, one of the best of the day 2 metal card decks. That's my opinion.
Interesting. I put it much lower on the day 2 battle cards. I think Jax, Lux, MF are all better than it. I even think Rexa is probably better. I would
I
put it bottom of day 2 battle
I
cards,
do think
but
I have not reordered these. I do think Rek'Sai is
yeah.
better. My opinion. This is my opinion. I don't think Jax is better. I do think Lux is better, and I don't think MF is better. So for me, this is how I would put it. But this is also like arguing is what, a stomach ache or a headache better? Like, let's be real.
Yeah. It's so similar. I
Yeah.
agree. Now, last set, right? Yi was the good orange red, orange green deck. Lee Sin was the wishes he was Master Yi. Where do you put Lee Sin now?
Ugh, I this deck was playable. Playable is a very strong word. Let me correct myself. Playable is a very
Yeah,
strong word. This deck was a pile of 40 cards because if played optimally in a specific list, you had game into Kaisa. And I don't mean positive equity. I want to make sure that's perfectly clear to the viewers right now. I don't mean positive equity. I mean you had game, meaning like it wasn't 100% zero spread here. Now, no. Like your deck just does nothing. Like who why do you care about buffs? If you think buffs are
yeah.
cool, play Fiora or play Set, which is going to be much better.
And when I was playing Jax, I was also thinking, man, this feels very similar to Lee Sin, but is doing everything
Yeah.
better. Um, so legitimately, I think most people who, randomly liked how Lee Sin played and were willing to put up with it being
Mhm.
bad are moving over to something like Jax or the Fiora that you mentioned kind of decks.
100%.
And he's just not worth it. He's yeah, full on metal card hunting tier.
Yeah,
I agree.
100%. Now, all of this said, if you are like the Lee Sin stan number 1 of the world, play it. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't play this deck, right? We all play the game for different reasons, but this is strictly about like conversion rates and actual, our opinions on the meta. I am a competitive channel, and I know Dimitri is hyper competitive. I know he's still, working on the direction of his channel, but I imagine it's going to be pretty similar, mostly competitive stuff. And I'm not here to tell you which is the best metal card to take. I think these are all in the same category for me. I don't, that's why I'm not kind of ordering these. The only ones I care about ordering are day 2 and above.
In terms of which metal card to take, it is the deck that is going to be low representation, which is anything in metal card or even day 2 metal card for the most part. And it's going to be the deck that you think you can play better and have better spice than everyone else on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not any one of these in particular, it's just where you are past the curve on.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. Yep. 100%. 100%. Yeah, because I think the assumption to make on the metal cards is you are going to be competing against any number between 10 and 30 other people. And I would imagine some percentage of those people are casuals who are just there for fun. And they're like, yeah, dude, Lee Sin, this is my guy in League of Legends. Some amount of people are just like, have made an EV call where it's like, okay, Lee Sin is going to be the lowest possible represented, and I'm just taking it and rolling the die. And then you're going to have a handful of people who are like the one tricks. Lee Sin is all they play. Like Prismat last set on Teemo. Like I don't think I think Timo was fine last set. I don't think he was particularly good, unless it was specifically piloted by Prismat. I think when piloted by Prismat, it was an excellent deck because he was a one trick. He knew the deck better than anyone else. So that's your kind of baseline for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All
Where
right,
do you want to go next?
all right. Let's stay in the oranges here. Let's go to the volley Chad. I know you had some spice with this deck, and a good friend of mine, a good friend of ours, Keegan E3TCG, is a big fan of this legend. Like, I would say probably 10% of his Riftbound posts on Twitter are about Volibear. He loves this legend. That said, it's probably the second worst Aurora deck, or bottom five possible mid range decks. So this is for me a metal card deck. I do think because you're red, you do have the opportunity to play some really good removal. You do get access to Thermo Beam, so maybe it's day two metal card. Like, if you wanted to argue that point, I wouldn't disagree with you, but it's probably very top of metal card hunting for me. Maybe bottom day two metal
I
card.
I look at the deck and every list I see of it, I'm like, this has so many glaring weaknesses. You have a chosen champ that can't be used until super late. You don't have any reason or like good usage of your first 2 turns realistically with any list. Best thing you can do is like a Catalyst of Aeons. You don't have ways to find Aurora super consistently. Either, you don't have any stack deck or anything like that. The thing is, every tournament in set one that I was going to, there would be someone on Volibear who was like undefeated after round 5 or round 6. It'd be like, okay, Volley is still the highest seed in the tournament right now. And I never understood how or why.
I think
So my brain wants to put him at metal card hunting, but my heart wants to put him at day 2.
I think can I give you my honest opinion?
Yes.
I don't know. I think the amount of people that have read a Volibear card, other than Bryn here and Aurora and like the ramp package, is lower than the amount of people who have read a Volibear card, and that is why. Like, you come from Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So you understand the value of metagaming
Mm.
and bringing a deck that people don't know, right? Like, you are the creator of one of the strongest strategies in Edison, and not a big portion, but some nominal portion of that when you first brought it to that tournament was people knew what the Frog Engine did, but nothing else. Like, if you bring a list that no one
Mm.
knows has seen before, I do think that is something to take in consideration, and that is what I think happens at every tournament with Volibear until you get to the top tables, and that just doesn't matter versus the best players, or later in the rounds in the top
Yeah,
tables. Let me
my issue
clarify.
is
Sorry.
what a deck has to do to abuse that information gap is to make the plays that people normally want to do plays that lose to the way that your deck is built and designed to play, right? So like the frog deck that I brought in that Edison event was a deck that if they let me get to my combo and gave me the turns for that, I would just be able to win the game no matter what they had going on.
Right.
But the way that people would play around frogs is sometimes you would just do nothing, leave nothing on field so that the frog monarch stuff couldn't destroy your field, which
Sure.
would give me a few extra turns. Volibear doesn't do that. There's nothing about his game plan that pushes players to an expected play pattern that is he can exploit well.
Sure.
Everyone knows that that's Aurora colors. Everyone sees that he's a big dude kind of guy. Everyone assumes Aurora. The things you do to exploit Aurora, exploit him.
Sure. I mean, that's a fair assessment. I don't necessarily disagree with that. So let's give 90 seconds to the bear here. Give me your paper napkin explanation as to why you think, if you have a potential explanation, why this guy, you keep seeing him at the top tables through like round 6, and then towards the end of the tournament he just doesn't quite make it.
I think it's just sometimes people hit Aurora, 4 or 5 matches in a row kind of thing. I honestly think that's all there is to it.
That's valid.
I personally would put him in metal card hunting tier. I think it's just been a random luck swing for that happening. But yeah, I'm open to it being a day 2 metal card.
Yeah, this could. I generally
Your
don't try to.
choice.
I generally don't try to let biases uh reflect in my meta analysis. this might be bias coming through. My bad. My bad, gang. I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Hey, all of you volley players, especially Keegan, Nova hates you. Just let
All
it
right,
be known right
listen.
in the comments all of your hate about Nova, specifically saying, hey, I'm a volley Chad and I hate Nova, right? Make the comment section a whole support group for you guys.
All right, I'm no longer having a good time. All right, so
All right.
let's
Lucian.
let's go to Luciano, Lucky Luciano here. Uh, this deck, uh, when piloted well, I think does have the opportunity to do some unfair stuff. I think red has some unfair cards. I think orange has some unfair cards. I do think it is harder to pilot correctly than most people assume. And obviously, you and I have pretty extensive playtime into this deck. So I want to put it in under converts, but converts, because I think a lot of people are going to be on this deck. Most people are like, oh, Lucian's a metal card deck. But because that sentiment is so widespread, it's going to be so played that I don't think you could just put it into that like 20 to 40 people playing it. I would not be surprised if we get the Bologna results and you see 80 people on Lucian.
Yeah, so looking at the previous tournaments, Lucian was like, 21 people on Lucian in one of them, 10 people on Lucian in another.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up. He, I think, had one or two top 64s in those tournaments. He doesn't really convert well. He doesn't really have um, enough spice going for him, I think. Um, I think he could be a strong enough deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think um, he's not going to convert. There won't be many people on him. Their builds won't be that strong with him.
Mm. So you think because people haven't found the correct build or optimized it correctly, you think it's not going to quite hit that under converts threshold?
Yeah, and it does just have weaknesses to the top decks, right? I do think it
Fight or
is
flight is
weak to
rough.
purple.
Yeah,
It is, and
fight or flight is rough for this deck.
it has the relentless pursuit kind of option to get back in the combat, but like double fight or flight
Yeah.
just beats that for cheaper. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
put it day 2 metal card probably. I think there's enough sauce to it. There's enough power in getting the assault bonuses plus the
Mm-hmm.
Lucian Chosen Champion is a very strong card to just have consistent access to. Any cheap Chosen Champion with no power cost is uh, a quality Chosen Champion in this
True.
game.
Very true.
I don't see him topping though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Top eight is a very, because we're doing top eight instead of 64 for the conversion metric. Um, it's tough. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I do like him at the very top of day 2 metal card though. I will say that. I think
Sure.
he's like right there. If this was 64, he would be here for sure. But because it's 8, I don't disagree with that. All right.
Sounds good.
So staying in the reds, let's get one out of the way quickly, which is I think probably the second worst deck in the game, or very close to it, and that is Rumble. I don't have much to say on
Dang.
this. Blue just doesn't do enough if you're not cheating it. Red is a good color, of course, but your legend giving you shield in a meta where I don't care what like your guys have. I'm pushing them off or I'm putting them back in your hand. Um, it just doesn't do enough, right? Like I don't know. I don't really have much else to say on Rumble. Like,
Yeah.
we did try some funny builds. I do distinctly remember you trying some funny builds with Rumble, uh, and the sentiment was the same. It just doesn't do enough.
Yeah. I do remember feeling like, no, Rumble can't be the second worst deck. He's got to be like bottom 25%, sure, but he's not the second worst. And then I try and come up with any example besides Garen of a deck that is worse than him, and I just can't, man. He really is the second worst deck. Every other deck has some build with some shot. He doesn't. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really have much else to say on that. I'll just be real. Uh,
Yeah.
we'll we'll convert over to the blues here. Which of the blues do you
So
want to hit?
sticking with the same color, blue red, right? Going over to Kaisa, the
Hmm.
queen of set one. Where do we think she goes? I actually have a controversial opinion for her, I think. I'm curious where you put her.
This is tough. I have a lot to say on Kaisa, and I don't know how much. Uh, oh, okay. How can I frame this? So, I think full burn Kaisa is very good, and I don't think that's like hidden information from anyone, right? So it's not. I'm not like leaking. I'm not doing anything crazy. I don't think that's like hidden information. The problem is, I think so many people are going to be on like diet set 2 decks for Kaisa, or like set 1 plus decks where it's like, oh, I pulled these upgrades, this is what I do, and I just go play Bologna with it. And I've played into decks like that with the best decks, Draven. I've played into it with Fiora, and you cannot play set 1 plus Kaisa or diet set 2 Kaisa. You have to, like, I think full burn is the only way. The second glaring problem is you cannot beat Irelia. You can't. You could every single turn pick your deck up and pick what card you want to add to your hand. You cannot beat this legend. Um, it just doesn't work. So for
Yes.
for
I
me,
agree on both of those.
it's gonna be under converts, but converts. I do think we're gonna see a Kaisa in top eight. I'm not convinced of it. If we don't see one, I'm not gonna be surprised. And for me, in fact, I would say it's at the bottom of under converts, but converts. But I will not be surprised if one top eights. I will also not be surprised if none top eight.
Yeah, I'm to be clear, for my threshold of under converts but converts is top 64, right? I know top cut
Right.
is top 8, but
Mm-hmm.
invites are based on top 64,
Sure.
and I think these decks I see getting to top 64 pretty consistently.
100%. Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
Kaisa's in that spot. I agree. I think a Kaisa will hit top 64. I don't see Kaisa getting top 8. I guess one could sneak in maybe.
Right. Yeah. Like I
Very
said,
much agree on to why.
I would.
Really a bad matchup. Builds will be off.
Yeah, 100%. I don't even know that it's just a bad matchup. I think it's an unplayable. I think it's unwinnable. And I don't want to spend forever on this, but yeah, that's really
Yeah.
all I got to say.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
So no more red blues. Let's keep in our blues though. What do you think? You picked a blue here.
So we've gone down to having mostly just purple left. I think we should leave the purple for the end and do the green blues now. Ari or Orn?
All right, let's talk about Ari. What's your thoughts on Ari? I have some thoughts on Ari. Go ahead.
Well, it seems like everyone loves Ari because of League. And so I think she's a great metal card choice because of that, where her metal card fetches a ton. I think
Mm-hmm.
more people will go for her than she deserves as a metal card. It's possible that she makes day two because of that. But honestly, I think that the tools that she has gained, even though they're cool, there's a fair amount of useful ones for her, are not as good as the other decks, and she is a hold deck in a meta where anything but purple cannot hold.
I agree. Yeah, I 100% agree, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. I have a good friend who built a really spicy Ari list towards like the end of set one that had super positive equity into Annie. Uh, very good, but it was pure hold. And like you
Yep.
said, and like I've said, you cannot be a hold deck if you're not purple. You just can't. You don't get the cards. So for me, it's a metal card deck. In fact, it's probably towards the
Yep.
middle bottom of the
I'm
metal
down with
card
that.
decks.
I would put her at the top of metal card, probably, but I think it's all pretty similar.
Yeah,
I just think blue green does have enough tools that I could see a good build maybe squeaking a day two. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah, I don't want to split hairs on
Yeah.
the stomach aches. All right,
Don't have to. Let's move on to Orin.
and then Orin. Yeah. So, uh, another deck that just doesn't do enough. I've personally, Rat Pack fixes the problem of being too slow, playing the rat and all the gears, but you sacrifice top end, and then there's the Protect the President build with like Spell Songers and World Atlases that fix the top end issue, but then you're too slow, and people just score a million points on you, and then you suffer the problem of getting stuck on a battlefield. That's what we found in our testing, where it's like you always hit that inevitability point where your Orn is huge, deflect 1 trillion, 50,000 might, but he moves like a water tanker, right? It's like slow grind into the battlefield,
Yep.
and then slow grind back to base, and then slow grind back to the other battlefield. And almost every other deck has ways to kind of shoot things around, whether it's big units or smaller units.
Yeah, and even so, right? He's 30 might deflect 6. The opponent can still just do Bryn here rebuke, and there is nothing you can do about that. That guy's gone. You lose the game instantly.
Yeah, yeah. Who cares about paying 8 runes for rebuke if it just wins you the game?
Exactly.
So for me, I would not be surprised if we saw if we saw Orn make day 2. I would be surprised if we saw Orn in 64, but day 2, I could see Orn make day 2.
I think day 2 is reasonable. He does have a lot of draw power going for him. The
Agreed.
Apprentice Smith at 2 might, the Stellacorn Herder. He's so good with seals that Premonition is a solid card for him. He just really does have a lot of strong draw, which really helps his equity into like broad fields.
Yes,
I think where he can find those hate cards that he would want.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Where do you want to go next?
All right, we're gonna keep on the blues here. We're gonna go to my main man Teemo. I had a love-hate relationship with this deck last set. It was a deck I taught my wife Riftbound on. I love hiding cards. I'm a Draven player, so I do partake in the hiding of cards every so often. You know what I mean? It's hide a switcheroo, hide a fight or flight. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Hide a edge knight. But why am I gonna hide cards in Teemo when I could hide cards in Draven? It's a metal card deck through and through. It is purple. I do want to make the clear distinction here. It is purple. So you do have the ability to play those unfair cards. So for me, just because of the pure fact he's purple, he would naturally have to go in the day 2. I think he, just purely by being purple, he is better than every non-purple deck.
Yeah, I agree. I think also purple blue does have a lot of tools right now. There's the Rat Pack combo, there's Singularity, there's like Watcher's Bellows Breath options, and a lot of these are better in Ezreal, but the fact that they're in Teemo's range is really nice. So I would also put him day 2 metal card. He has a big range. People don't know what build to expect from him. You can definitely cheese matches with him. He does have the downside though, right? His chosen champion lets you cut down on 2-drops because worst case you can play the chosen champion. But purple has all of the best 2-drops in the game. It's got like the top 4 best 2-drops. So you're not like saving anything with that either.
100% agree. 100% agree. And plus it's 1 might when it's just face up, which if you're 1 might, you got to be making a gold when you move around. Let's just be honest.
Yep.
All right, Ezreal. This deck is the center of controversy everywhere. You have some people who are like, oh, I swear it's the best deck in the format. I promise you, you guys just don't know. You'll see, you'll all see. And then you have other people who I kind of tend to side with, where it's like, yeah, it's Ezreal. You could do Rat Pack, which speeds it up, lets you move around, score a couple points, but you're not playing super unfair stuff. Or you play the Miracle version, which lets you do more unfair things, but you don't get to play Rams, which are a huge might surge in the red Miracle decks. So I'm at odds. I do think we're gonna see him in the top 128 at minimum. At minimum. Um, Maybe even our first converts as expected, just because so many people are playing this deck. And I think a lot of those people have spent a lot of time on this. Every Ezreal player I talk to has done nothing but play Ezreal since set 2 cards were on TCG Arena. I have not met a Ezreal casual yet. They just don't exist. Like Garen casuals, Lee Sin casuals, they're all over the place. Ezreal casuals, they don't exist. They are not on this plane.
Yeah, maybe commentators will know why. It might just be, something to do with people, how people like him in League or something. But I agree. People who are into Ezreal tend to be really into him
Mm-hmm.
and well practiced as well. And I do think he has good enough equity into mid-range Draven
Mm-hmm.
that you can be way ahead of most mid-range Draven players and come out on top and top pretty much off the back of that. His matchups elsewhere are a little rougher, especially Miracle Draven is a terrible matchup for him, but he does have enough tools, enough ways to build him. He's got enough ways to get points early and fast. He's got enough removal that he can do really well into this purple meta, into this Draven heavy combat winning meta.
Right.
That I see him converting as expected. I agree on that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't really have much else to add. All right, let's go to the other to the green purples. Yasuo. You played
Indeed.
a lot of Yasuo for a good week or two. I know that was something we were testing very heavily. So I'll let you comment on this.
Yeah, so Yasuo and Aurelia are very similar, right? And Yasuo's big advantage is he gets to do his movement without having to spend cards. And he gets to do his movement without having to spend power. So it's better for the long term, it's better for card economy. The thing is those colors have a ton of card economy because they have Stellacorn Herder and they get to like abuse Dreaming Tree and stuff. And they also um need a strong chosen champion, in my opinion,
Right.
because you want to have a unit that you are happy to have out, and you want to have a very low unit count in deck.
Mm-hmm.
And Yasuo is just because of that worse than Aurelia, even though he does have very similar tools, very similar matchup spread and win conditions and everything as Aurelia, and some advantages. I would put him at day 2 metal card, personally. I
Agreed.
don't think enough people will be on him. I would not be that surprised if one converted. Um, but I don't see them going past top 64 realistically, and I think Aurelia is just a significantly stronger deck off of the back of the chosen champion.
100. Yeah, I could not I could not possibly add more to that. 100% agree. I agree with the issues. Agree with all your sentiments there. And the one thing I will
Oh,
say is because it's purple, it automatically has to be day 2 metal card because it gets to do the unfair things of purple.
mhm. The other unfair advantage to Aurelia, right? Even if Yasuo has everything going right, is Aurelia gets the signature spell that makes her so much
Mm-hmm.
stronger of a might threshold every single turn, right? She leaves one open, and you can't really
Oh,
afford to accelerate a Kaisa into her sneaky deckhand because she can go up to 4,
mm-hmm.
put your Kaisa down to 2, and win that exchange.
Yep.
Yasuo does not have that same threat range. And so
100%.
he is behind every single turn relative to her because of that too, which does pull him down as well.
100%.
Yeah.
Segueing into Irelia, the big thing I like about this is that her energy to threat range does not scale linearly when it comes to doing the math. I made the comment earlier about Yi being the math deck, whereas Irelia with one energy open is 3 might, it's 5 might, it's 5 might minus 2 might. 2 energy is all those same things, plus a fight or flight or rebuke or ride the wind. 3 energy is all of those things plus more, right? So 3 energy could also be 15 might. It could be 5 might Ride the Wind. It could be 10 might Gust. You know what I mean? The reason why Irelia is so strong there is it forces your opponent to do these weird calculations. You could have 2 cards in hand with 3 energy up, and they have to assume a threat range of what? Correct me if I'm overestimating here, but it's 7 cards, 7 reasonable cards they have to assume.
Even more, I think. Yeah, there's so many options that she could have, and she can also discipline and draw into an option after
Oh my
that,
gosh, yes.
if she wants to. There's just, yeah, continually so many possibilities for her.
Yeah.
And I do think because of that, because of how much she can cheat on might and everything, her champion not having any power cost, I would put her converts as expected. Um, I think that the improvement in builds that have happened recently by adding
Yes.
Sneaky Deckhand to the list and letting her get points early and then convert from there maybe pushes her to over convert where she was not over converting in the Chinese meta, really. But I think she's probably still going to be in my converts as expected, but at the top of it.
See, interesting. I was going to say the exact same thing with you with the build optimization and Sneaky Deckhand being called out specifically, as well as the Purple Draven being like a 2 of in most decks with the Charm combo. But for me, with the West, I was going to say that might even push it into over converts for me. I think it's tough because you also have to take in, because of the conversion rates, you have to also take in the people who are not super competitive and they're playing Irelia because it's a waifu deck, or they're playing it because they pulled Defiant Dance. I don't want to go harp on that too much, but for me, I think Irelia does get pushed into that overconvert because builds have been continuously optimized, and I do, like you said, agree with Sneaky Deckhand applying some early pressure, and because you're going to be hitting that inevitability point where you have an Irelia with a GA and a Boots of Swiftness and 6 cards in hand and 7 energy up, that you're fine letting a Draven draw 1, maybe 2 cards off of a combat win, because you're going to hit that inevitability. You saved 2, sometimes 3 points with the sneakies. For me, that pushes it into overconvert, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my expectation is that Aurelia is going to be about 12% of the meta, and she'll convert at like 14 to 15% of top cut. And so, in that sense, she will overconvert, but it's going to be a very small
Marginal,
overconversion.
sure.
So, I'm fine with her in either of those tiers.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable.
All right. Now on to our red purple legends. Let's start it off. We'll just get it out of the way quickly. Jinx.
Yeah, so I think Jinx is fairly strong. I think she has a lot of tools going
Oh
for
man.
her. However, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who want to play her or her on her. She is in the category of Draven is just better, and there's so many different ways that you could build her that I
Mhm.
don't see her getting that far for the most part. I would put her at day 2 metal card. Maybe one person sneaks in.
I have confidence one person is going to sneak in, so she's at the top of day 2 metal card for me. Um,
Sure.
I think Jinx is a lot stronger than some people give credit for, but and it's red purple. So like you said, it's you get the Draven colors. It's just Draven is better situation. It's effectively what it is, but it is a good deck. It's
Yep.
definitely not last set where it was, man, Jinx was rough. This set, no, it's a totally different ball game.
Next up, Annie, of course. I
Oh,
think
so
Annie
much to say on
is
Annie.
either top of under converts but converts, where like one's getting into top 64, or top of day 2 metal card. I think that she has a lot of tools. She's able to be more aggressive than other decks. 2 free runes every turn is still good. I don't like her Draven matchup though. That's my issue with her.
My issue with Annie, because I mean, this, right? Like, how many games of Annie Draven have you and I alone played, let alone with the rest of the team? Because I was very high on Annie coming into this. You
Yep,
can't you
a fair
can't
amount.
you can't play this as an aggro deck, right? You just give Draven way too much. So you have to
Yep.
play this more mid-range deck. And readying 2 runes is really cool. But who cares if the rest of your deck just doesn't do enough? Like, you don't get rewarded for winning combats. You don't get to cheat things beyond the 2 runes, which last set was excellent because you could go get, you could, accelerate a Kaisa turn 3 or turn 2 if you were on odd curve. You could get a quick point, you could kill their 2-drop, you'd ready 2, and then you'd flash it out or you'd foff it out, right? You'd have these different tools to play aggro and get rewarded for it. This set, the problem is if you do that, Draven comes in and gets everything that you got and more. And also, guess what? He's going to play a fan to that battlefield. He's going to hide a card. And then you are never in your life touching that battlefield again. There has been some developments to this list, playing like a Bryn here and a Mind Splitter to, because I do think obviously it's easier when you're playing with perfect information. Hard Bargain is a very strong card. You get to ready 2. Guess what? Hard Bargain costs 2. But this deck is, in my opinion, straight I'll just say it, straight ass as a mid-range deck. And that's just actual factual. That's all it is. I don't like this as a mid-range deck. Day 2 metal card for me. I do think if one goes into 64, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm going to go, okay, someone snuck in, but it's not something I'm expecting.
The other thing I want to note, right? One of my predictions for this broadly is going to be that there is a list that comes out of Bologna that nobody was expecting, that nobody was on thinking was good, and it turns out is good and does get played a fair amount of this meta in the future. And it is possible, I think, that Annie is the deck that we find that list for at this event.
Interesting.
And that comes out as, oh yeah, this is part of the meta and should have been part of the meta the whole time.
Right.
I don't know what build of Annie it would be. If I did, I would be bringing it myself,
Right. I will say, if every single person on Annie was on Miracle Annie and was that like a baseline skill that I had this belief that they could play Miracle or Storm, whatever you want to call it, at some semi-optimal level, it would probably be here for me because I think Miracle is strong enough. Miracle is strong enough that it can carry to here, and you do get red because red legend, so you get Ram. You still get to play the Falling Stars. You still get to play 2, right? So anytime you do get to play that 45 might turn, you get to ready 2 at the end of it. So you get to represent all of your good interactions. So I do think that's a difference. If the mid-range variant specifically is here, Storm or Miracle is here. So that's, if I had 2 copies of Annie, I'd split it off. But overall, it's a metal card deck for me. It's just, if you want to play Miracle, just play Draven.
Play Draven. Yep. And what's fucked up to me is Draven, everyone talks about how broken his legend is. But the thing I think that makes Miracle Draven so much above Miracle Annie is that being able to use turn 2 on your chosen champion and pay no power cost helps the deck so much for its rune curves that it has enough runes to be able to play 6 billion cards on turn 3.
Exactly.
And Annie can't do that, and Draven can, and then he gets all the draws on top of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And when your guy wins a combat, you get gold. So gold power is fake for the whole rest of the game. You get the seal, so it's even faker, I guess. Shout out Faker, greatest of all time.
Shout out Faker,
greatest of all time.
Indeed.
If you want to play Annie, I will say, if you are an Annie player and you want to play Annie for the metal card, or you just enjoy playing Annie, I think you should be on the Miracle deck and you should be practicing how to properly pitch stack, what your inflection points are, knowing what cards you need to get with the champion, when you can play the champion, those important things. And I talk about some of those in my How to Beat Draven video that'll also be linked. I think you should check out. That was a big project I did with a bunch of other top players. You should check that out. I talk a big game on inflection points, interaction, how to approach the Draven matchup, so on and so forth. That should be your baseline. That said, all in a nutshell, play Miracle if you're playing this deck. Don't play mid-range, it's fake. And then our glorious executioner. I'll let you wrap us up here, my friend.
Oh, man. Draven has, at basically every Chinese event, converted at a rate of 2-to-1 into top cut, where for every person on him, so if 20% are in the tournament, 40% of top cut ends up being Draven. From top cut, he ends up having about a 50% win rate through top cut, so he doesn't end up being better on average than other topping decks by that much, but boy does he punish misplays. Anytime your opponent misplays, they lose their unit that's on the battlefield, they lose the point, you get a draw. It's a +3, sometimes a +4 from
Mm-hmm.
a single misplay. And
Yep.
so, because of how abusive Draven is for any level of playing below the top echelon of play, he is broken. And at the top level of play, he's still the best deck. So he has to be by far the most overconverting deck. I mean, you look at this tier list, and everything from under converts to the bottom of metal card tier has lost equity somewhere along the way. Where did they lose that to? Draven. Exactly Draven, entirely to Draven, and a tiny bit to Aurelia.
But I absolutely agree. I don't really have anything else to add.
Yeah, it really is just Draven. Before we go, then, any final predictions for the Bologna meta for anything strange that might top or anything else?
Absolutely. So mine are: we are going to see a Miracle Irelia make the cut, and
Okay,
we are
nice.
going to see a non-Miracle, non-Aurora Sivir deck make the cut. So true mid-range gaming Sivir, not Miracle, not Aurora, no funky dunky stuff, just mid-range playing Riftbound as Dave Guskin intended Sivir. What about
And this is
yours?
top 64,
Yes,
right?
64, not 8. Not 8. Yeah, 64.
Okay, okay. I could see it. I think, let's see. I think Switcheroo as a card, and especially in Draven, will be played significantly more than it was in China. I think that card's going to have one of the best come ups, and I think it will convert well into Top Cut too. I think will also be played more in Top Cuts. I
Okay.
think some new deck, I think I said this earlier, will be discovered at Bologna and become popular and part of the meta, and people will be saying, why weren't we playing this before about it? I don't know what deck that will be.
Interesting. Okay. Give me a softball prediction. Just throw one out there just so we can have it tracked.
Mm. I think it could be a Timo list. I think it could be an Annie list. I think both those would be really
Mm.
interesting.
Okay.
Last thing in the comments below, if you have your own specific predictions, anything strange, what do you think's going to top? Any weird lists that you think are going to come out of this? Let us know what your predictions are in the comments.
Yeah, do that. And we'll see how crazy you are. And we'll address it in the next one.
Indeed.
Well, that about wraps us up. Now I'm gonna do the YouTuber thing to segue to our sponsors. Of course, thank you to Pristine Protection for keeping us protected. Be sure to go to pristineprotectiontcg.com/shop and use code NOVA10 for 10% off your purchase. That is store wide. And of course, topdeck.gg, the best tournament organizing software out there. Everyone can attest to it. Anyone that's ever played on it or hosted with it will say so and agree with me. 2-week free
Facts.
trial, no strings attached. You can even add me on Discord, DM me, and say, hey, I want to try it out. Will you help me get my first tournament set up? And I will help you do that free of charge. Nothing, no string attached. So just let me know. Otherwise, that's all I've got to say. We'll see you in the next one.